And a good Monday evening to you, live from the Ramsey Center. Welcome you into our Catamount Conversations as we talk Western Carolina athletics, presented by Stanberry Insurance. Tonight on our CSN Catamount Conversation, our conversation turns to Catamount basketball. Men's and women's basketball just a couple of weeks away from getting underway. Football, Gary, gets underway this weekend. Basketball will be right behind it, and I tell you what, it's about time, right? We've all been waiting for this moment.
We are definitely, we have been ready, I'll put it that way.
The Catamount Conversations presented by Stanberry Insurance. As they have our 2021 basketball previews tonight. It's the best three-point play with 3 locations to serve you: Silva, Waynesville, and Highlands. Online, StanberryINS.com. Stanberry Insurance, an independent regional agency with more options to keep all your bases covered for all of life's touchdowns, home runs, and appropriately tonight, all the slam dunks as well. Daniel Hooker along with Gary Ayers from the Catamount Sports Network, and welcoming our first guest tonight as we talk Catamount men's basketball. We've got head coach Mark Prosser. Welcome in, Coach.
Glad to be here. It's an exciting time to be a Catamount fan. I'm fired up for this weekend to finally get Coach Spear and his guys out there, and certainly going on the road against a ranked opponent. What a great way to start your year, and I'm fired up for them. And ours and Coach Hill's are right around the corner too. So what a great time to be a Catamount fan.
Well, we look at this right here. You talk about looking back and what has been a topsy-turvy type of year. Let's look back. It was the end of the 2019-20 season as we talk about trying to finish up the basketball tournament, and what we think here in Cullowhee was an opportunity for our Catamounts to go into postseason play, but as it turned out, unable to get that with the way COVID-19 came. Again, had to be disappointing for the guys to have a great season, one of the top turnarounds in the country, second best overall in the country, 19-12 overall record. But again, talk about that again. What was it like with the team and trying to deal with what was a disappointment, to say the least?
Yeah, it seems like years ago. It seems like it was such a long time ago, but I guess it was a few short months. It was disappointing. I think more than anything else, it was disappointing in the way that our season ended. I think we felt very strongly that we had a team that could compete for a championship, and losing the semifinals was nothing that we had ever planned on. We certainly wanted to play on that championship Monday night. So, East Tennessee played very well that day, and certainly was disappointing for us. And the way that things shook out, it was disappointing, especially for our seniors that wanted to continue to play and have the opportunity to play in the postseason. They earned that. And get to that 20-win, or try to get to that 20-win plateau, I guess I should say, and continue to compete. So, it was disappointing in that way, but obviously with the safety precautions that were necessary at that time, it was the right thing to do, and our administration made the great decision, and the people that ran those events made great decisions too. So we understand why it happened, and I think more than anything else, it's just made our group even more hungry now to reach that level in March, continue to play, and ideally continue to play in the NCAA tournament. And you mentioned it. I don't know that our kids get enough credit for the turnaround that they had. It was I think the second largest turnaround in terms of victory in the country, but the team that had the greatest got themselves into a little bit of trouble and maybe on some probations at this point. So our kids did it the right way. They did it legally. So there's a lot to be said for that.
Well, while we'll check on the mic, I think we have some audio issues there. We'll check on your microphone there. While we do, we'll check in the guy that is never muted, and that's our social media influencer extraordinaire. We're going to check in with our very own Clark Wilhoit, who is monitoring social media tonight. He may be getting some messages about trying to get Coach's audio up and running. We'll check on that here in just a second. But again, let's check in now, Gary, with Clark Wilhoit in the back of the room.
Once again, guys, I'm honored. I'm honored to be here with Daniel Hooker and Gary Ayers, and then especially with Coach Prosser. Super excited to be here tonight. I am going to say, guys and gals, I want you to send me your best comments. You give me names, numbers, phone numbers, addresses. It doesn't matter to me. I'll take anything. We will shout you out. Ask me your questions. We've got Coach Prosser here on the hot seat. And then later tonight, we'll have Coach Kylie Hill on, and then he'll be in the hot seat as well. So, Daniel, I really appreciate it. Coach Prosser, really appreciate it again. And the legendary Gary Ayers, I appreciate it and can't wait to get to talking with you all tonight. So thank you.
And don't forget, you can drop us a social media note on our Facebook page. Let Clark know where you're tuned in from. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns. Gary gets all the concerns. Coach gets all the questions, and I get all the comments here tonight. So keep that in mind, Clark, when you send that to us here. But again, Coach, you're looking back as we want to touch on this because we haven't had an opportunity to talk since, again, everything happened at the end of the last season. But wanted to get your thoughts on this really quickly. Just looking back, the Skip Prosser Man of the Year, that was awarded to you from collegeinsider.com. Had to be a great honor for you to receive that award from College Insider.
Yeah, it was, and it was really surprising. I had not given 1 second thought to it. It's something that the people at College Insider have been wonderful over the years since they sort of created that award, and I was involved early on, and a lot of conversations going back and forth about what the award would represent. And really, honestly, when Joe and Angela do a great job with College Insider, when he called that spring afternoon, obviously we were all home at the time. It was wildly unexpected. It was a great surprise, and for what that award represents, it was just a huge honor. Again, the things that come along with your kids having a wonderful season and taking you on an unbelievable ride is as a testament to them. It was just fun for us, as a coaching staff, for them to allow us to go with them on that journey that they took us on, and just a great group of kids. And so anything that comes from that, as far as things like an award like that, it has very, very little to do with any of us on that sideline. It's those kids that were on the floor. So it was a lot of fun to celebrate it at the time. But again, our kids earned all of those things.
Yeah, Coach. The obvious question that probably has kept you up a couple of nights, even before he graduated. But Carlos Dotson, I think the best big man in the Southern Conference, of course, has moved on. We have two guys who have, I guess, a little different skill set with Xavier Cork and Amir Langley. Our fans have not been able to see Amir, but two very special guys. Now, with Carlos moving on, again, a great big man, does this change the way you approach your offense and defense with these young guys moving up?
Yeah, we're going to have we'll have some different roles really across the board for guys to step into, maybe that were different early in their career. I think one of the things that helped us have a comfort level, so while we do always have those sleepless nights, they've been a little bit less so maybe this summer and this fall, was the fact that I think we were the only team in the league that had 3 of our top 7 were true freshmen, not redshirt freshmen. The 3 of our top 7 last year with Travion and Tyler Harris, and you mentioned Xavier Cork, were guys that played a lot of minutes. Yeah. And the guys that are stepping into the roles vacated by Carlos Dotson, who I agree with you was the best post player in a lot of leagues last year, and Ono Steger, who had a wonderful 2 years here, sort of in our system, and led the league in 3-point field goal percentage, and just had a great career here. And so, having the opportunity to have guys that have played meaningful minutes in those roles, and I think that's the natural progression is for Xavier, who played a lot as a freshman and stepped in for Carlos very admirably. I think the East Tennessee game Carlos didn't play, was hurt, and I believe Xavier had 16 and 9 against obviously a very, very good opponent. And you did mention people haven't seen Amir quite yet, but you're going to like Amir Langley. As far as how we play, I think we can actually play faster. I think we finished last year, if I remember correctly, 17th in the country in scoring. We lose 2 guys that score the basketball at a high level, but I think we have the ability now to play faster, to get up and down a little quicker, and our length and our athleticism and our talent level, and play maybe some more people as well. So I'm not going to say you won't miss those guys, because we will, and there'll be some more sleepless nights, but the kids that are here that are ready to assume those roles have done a great job, and I think you'll be very, very excited when you see them.
Yeah.
Our Catamount conversation presented by Stanberry Insurance. Online, stanberry-ins.com. 3 locations, Silva, Waynesville, Highlands, the best 3-point play in the business. Talking about Stanberry Insurance. Talk about best in the business. Let's check in the back of the room with, I think someone said nobody puts baby in the corner or in the back of the room. Let's check in with our social media influencer extraordinaire, Clark Wilhoit. He's got some guys and gals checking in across the country. Clark, take it away.
So we've got our first question for you, Coach Prosser. It's from Ken Teasley. We've already kind of talked about it just a little bit, like you just said, but he wants to ask you to speculate on starters and some promising newcomers. So can you give Ken some insight to that?
Yeah, I would love to give Ken some. Ken, appreciate your question. I think there's some natural, thoughts of if our team, where guys should step in. I think, obviously Mason Faulkner might get to play a little bit this year, and Matt Halverson might find himself on the floor. I mentioned the 3 kids that played a lot as true freshmen last year, and they'll be in that mix as well. I think people have forgotten a little bit, not in a negative way, but people have sort of had Cameron Gibson not necessarily at the forefront of their mind, but he was a young man that 2 years ago was on the all-rookie team and had every reason to be rookie of the year in our league, and he will be back from injury. And there's a bunch of new talented kids that have come in, and the thing that's great about our program, I think, is that we have guys that are willing to compete and earn what they get. If you don't, with the roster that we have right now, if you don't compete, you don't come to play, somebody's going to be there to take your time, and that's what makes it fun. And they've done a great job of competing in the right way. They're very close. We can't get them to stop talking, ever. Sometimes it's better than others, but yeah, I think, the young kids have all sort of had those freshman moments. We've had to sort of manage our way through all the different things that you have to do right now, the quarantines, the times where you have guys in and out and things like that, and we'll all continue that hopefully for not too foreseeable future. Hopefully the positive news that came out today and continues to come out will continue, but they've all shown signs, and they're all very talented, and they're going to have their moments and certainly have the opportunity to play as well. But I think if you had to put a team out there right now or a starting five together right now, it's one that would have some experience, I think, and it would make some sense for people to follow our team.
Well, you talk about the talented roster top to bottom, some good upperclassmen. You got sophomores who got great experience. You mentioned with the injury to Cam Gibson, the unfortunate thing. The good news is Tyler Harris and Travion McCray got lots of time out there. You got Xavier Court getting to learn and mentor behind one of the best big men. We talked about Carlos Dotson, but you got about 7 new freshmen, including the redshirt freshman and Amir Langley. Talk about some of these newcomers and what are they bringing to the table, and what are you looking forward out of this freshman class? Is it turning into a freshman versus upperclassman? How does practice go there? A lot of talent on the floor.
You know what? It hasn't. We should probably do that, I guess, at some point to break the monotony a little bit. They'd probably get a kick out of that, but it might be, child abuse in some ways, but we do. We have a really good group. I think the first person to bring up, as you mentioned, Amir is a redshirt freshman, because that means he's been in our system for 2 years now, and I think from one year to the next, you could see the comfort level with our kids in our system really across the board from 2 years ago to last year, and how much more comfortable they were. So Amir has that natural comfort level because he's been through it. You mentioned the way that you sort of sharpen your saw against really good players. That's what helped Zay along the way, but going against Carlos every day. But Amir was there too, playing against Carlos every day and often. It helped Tyler Harris with Ono Steger. It helped Travion McCray with Mason Faulkner. So it's going to help Amir in the long run. And he and Zay are pushing each other on a day-to-day basis and getting pushed by others. So, but I think again, you're for a red shirt for a freshman that has 4 years left, you're going to be very surprised with what you see. And Amir Langley is a very, very good player. As far as our incoming kids, again, they've all shown signs. I think, just sort of going by dorm room more than anything else. Sincere McMahon's a young man from Indianapolis that can really score the basketball. He's really probably, out of the new kids, embraced our defensive system the best to this point. That's our job as coaches, to get everybody else up to speed, but he's done a very nice job of that. Very confident. He's got a great swagger about him, and will not back down from Mason or Travion or anybody really in practice, and has had some really nice moments. Time Guy is a young man from Texas that is about 6'5", 6'6", sort of built in that mold of Ono Steger, can really, really shoot the basketball, and very good out of ball screen, so fits what we do very well. Josh Massey, and Daniel Ransom are both freshmen from Charlotte that live together, so they're both very, very talented. Joshua is about 6'7", long, athletic perimeter player, and Daniel plays a little more around the rim right now, but 6'5" and tough and physical and great identity guy. And Kennedy Miles is a point guard that has shown signs as well, and sort of in the early going. And the kid that is going to be down the road that has been very, very impressive is Corey Hightower, who's a young man that transferred in from Presbyterian. And so we'll see. Those guys we're going to count on at different times. I don't think that any of them are going to settle for not finding a role for themselves or not getting themselves on the floor. But, again, to play here, you're going to have to beat out some pretty good players no matter who you are. And all those guys are in that mix.
Coach, talk about Mason Faulkner. I know he came in and really had a big leadership role for this team last year. This is his senior season. Has that leadership role grown for Mason? How much is really his team this year?
Yeah, I think it has tremendously. For a young man that was voted a captain his redshirt year, that says something. He couldn't even play that year. He was voted a captain 2 years ago. And that says something about who Mason is as a person, as well as how talented he is as a player. And I'm glad you brought him up again. I know this is probably it's maybe falling on deaf ears with our fan base, who are probably falling right now, but I'm just shocked at the lack of natural respect that he gives. I don't know why he's not on the Cousy Award list. It doesn't make any sense to me. He's the only player in Division I basketball to average 17 points, 6 assists, and 6 rebounds. Talk about impacting a game. I don't know that he will be preseason player of the year in our league, but you better be a pretty good player if you're going to pick somebody else ahead of him. So he's just a tremendous player. I think going through the NBA draft process really helped him. I think, his knowledge of taking that point guard ownership role, leader role, I think is something that he'll have to do from when he goes wherever he plays professionally from here, and I think he's embraced that. He's an easy young man to look up to because he works so hard and he's so talented, and he's such a fierce competitor, and I think, you saw that last year in his first year of eligibility for us, and he's certainly not satisfied. He's not happy with how last season ended as well, and so he's an easy one to sort of get behind and follow, and he's going to be a huge part of the ride that we take this season.
Well, speaking of that ride's going to get underway coming up later this month. We have announced the conference schedule, of course, getting underway December 30th up in Johnson City against ETSU. A pretty good way to open up your conference slate there. Hoping to have the full schedule announced later on this week, and I tell you what, only thing I can compare it to is baseball season when you're dealing with weather delays and you're dealing with rainouts and things of that sort. It's been crazy trying to get a schedule. One day you get a game scheduled, the very next day it's not there. But again, one of the things that we can let people know is the full schedule coming out later this week, and we can let people know that it will open up in Asheville against UNC Wilmington, part of a tournament over at UNCA at their nice arena.
Yeah, it's really a beautiful place. Having been up there a few times now, and certainly going back to days in the Big South when I was an assistant at Winthrop. So, but yeah, it's 2 weeks from Wednesday, which is coming. Our kids are fired up. I mean, it's been for a lot of kids, a lot of student athletes, it's a long time coming. So they're antsy about it. You can tell every day in practice. There's just, Matt Halverson said it the other day, there's just a different intensity level because I think our young men, our kids feel that there's a different feeling when you have something taken away from you. So for several months it was taken away from them, and I think when they come in every day, they realize that it's that sort of rediscovered, not that any of them have lost it, but that love for the game, and understanding that with quarantines and things like that, it can be taken away from you for a week to 10 days or 14 days to 2 weeks. So they're enjoying it while we have the opportunity in there. Obviously when those lights really go on, it'll be a whole different enjoyment level, and it'll be hard. I mean, UNC Wilmington's got a new coach. They have a great familiarity with us, with one of our former assistants that's over there now. So I don't know if that makes us at a disadvantage or not, but we could care less about any of that. We'll be ready to go, and the preparation will be a little bit different because again, it's a new head coach and a new system. But we have some guys that are upperclassmen on our team that you won't see something that they've never seen before. So we're looking forward to that, and then spending the rest of the weekend in Nashville and seeing. Hopefully, we can get all 27 of these games in.
Yeah, Coach. The unknowns. They almost come day by day anymore. I mean, you never know from one day to the next what's going to be going on. But I know one thing that's got to be on the minds of the players anyway is if this happens, and we hope it loosens up some, we'll see, might be the lack of fans, because we have such a great atmosphere here in the Ramsey Center in Cullowhee. I think it's one of the best in the whole Southern Conference, along with ETSU and some of those schools in the SoCon. But I know that energy might be have to be self-motivating, if you will, with a lack of fans.
Yeah, it's really the timing for everything, and I don't mean to make light of the global pandemic. The timing for just as a basketball perspective is really hard because the momentum that I think that we had with our fan base in the Ramsey Center was unbelievable. I think last year we had on average 600 more fans per game. I think that's right. It was electric in there, to the point that there was a couple times where you'd sort of be taken aback by our students that were there and our crowd that was there. There were some unbelievable comebacks, just unbelievable performances really on both sides. And this program has always traditionally been very good at home. We've always taken care of home court. We take that very seriously. I think we finished last year 10-4 and felt as though there was times we could have improved upon that. But yeah, hopefully at some point maybe we'll get some fans in the stands. Obviously, again, our administration, as you guys know, have handled everything at the first class level from day one, and we'll do it the right way, and hopefully when that happens, we'll have that same crowd back, whether it's this year or into next year. But we certainly miss them. We certainly look forward to that. Like I said before, we have a very self-motivated team. We have a very confident team with some swagger to them that have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, and they're hungry. So I don't know that we'll lack for motivation or confidence when that ball goes up in the air.
Again, a lot of that in terms of having fans in the stands, not dictated as much on campus as it is coming out of Raleigh. And I think that's going to be the big thing, is what will the state allow for fans to be in. I think they have made a move to allow parents, a limited number of parents into the ball games for visiting and for the home teams. I think that'll be the first thing. But I have a little bird that tells me that if you want to be in the Ramsey Center, at least in spirit and in picture, you have a great opportunity coming up looking at perhaps some little Catamount cutouts that might be announced later on this week. So something a little birdie has told me on that as well.
Yeah, my kids are fired up about those. So if that does happen, if that does come out, believe me, the Prosters they're actually hopefully if they do let a small number in, they'll want to be there, but they also want maybe those little cutouts too. So
I heard they want to take it home with them every night.
They do want to take it home. They don't want to give it back after. They don't want to give it back every game. So might get a little pricey, but that's okay.
So again, keep that in mind. Check catamountsports.com for more information on that. Do want to throw out this public service announcement as well. Partnership with Ingalls and Western Carolina Center for Community Engagement and Service Learning. They're encouraging fans to participate in the food drive coming up this weekend to benefit local nonprofit community organizations. Food drive will be Friday, November 13th, noon to 6 at the Ingalls store here in Silva, and Saturday, November 14th, noon to 6 over at the Russ Avenue location in Waynesville. Again, great partner of Western Carolina is Ingalls, and they're partnering with our Center for Community Engagement and Service Learning. Want to make sure we get that in there here this evening. Don't forget you're listening and watching to the Catamount Conversations as we talk Catamount men's and women's basketball tonight, presented by Stanberry Insurance. 3 great locations to serve you: Silva, Waynesville, and Highlands, and online at stanberryins.com. And Coach, obviously so much to look forward to. A lot of great games coming up. So much anticipation. I think later this week the preseason prognostications will come out, and again, it's still a really tough Southern Conference top to bottom. You've got some great players. You mentioned Mason Faulkner, Isaiah Miller coming back from UNCG. Both of those young men were among those in the conference that dipped that proverbial toe into the NBA waters. But again, just looking forward to a great season coming up. And it's going to be another cat and dog and Paladin and everything else fight coming up in the Southern Conference this year.
Yeah, it is. It's a really good league. Again, it's a league that has been on the cusp of having multiple teams in the NCAA tournament the last couple of years. I think, obviously, had there been an NCAA tournament last year, unfortunately, our league's best team has won the conference tournament the last few years. If East Tennessee doesn't win the tournament last year, I believe they would get it. They would have gotten in. Again, had there been a tournament as an at-large team, obviously 2 years ago with Wofford, had they lost in the conference tournament, I feel very strongly that they would have gotten in the tournament as well. So, it's really good. I saw today, I think UNC Greensboro got a vote in the preseason AP Top 25, which is great. It's great for our league. It's great for them. I think Furman will be picked highly as well. And all that stuff is great, and I don't know where we'll be picked. I hope they pick us last. We sort of get a kick out of all that stuff. We sort of get a kick out of where we're picked in the preseason, so we'll find out soon, and then we'll take it very personally to change people's minds as the next 4 months go on.
Talk about the Halverson brothers real quick. Again, you've got Matt coming back, a sharpshooting 3-point ace, and he got a younger brother coming in as well this year, one of those many freshmen that you look down the bench at. But what has that dynamic been like with those two on the team?
First of all, we have a roster full of great kids. They're just, if you get to know them and if you're around them, they're just so much fun to be around, so competitive, and such great kids from great families and great support systems. They make it so much fun for us to come to work every day. And Matt and Brad are no different. It's funny because they're just such competitors. You don't really notice it throughout the course of practice until you see the back of their practice jerseys and their names are on the back. It's like, we do have both Halverson brothers, but they're both highly competitive. They're both highly competitive with one another. Matt has an unbelievable He's had an unbelievable career here, and I don't know, again, if he's getting as much publicity as he should, or talk for preseason All-Southern Conference awards as well. I mean, he's going to be a 1,000-point scorer. He's going to be in the top 10. He already is. He may leave here as the leading three-point shooter in the history of our school. He may leave here as in the top 10 three-point shooting in the Southern Conference's history, which is obviously very well decorated. And I can tell you that his little brother has the same amount of confidence that he has, and will compete in the same way. So it's really, really fun. It's really fun for us. Hopefully it's fun for them and their family. They go at it tooth and nail every day like everybody else does. And, we're fortunate they come again like all of our kids from a wonderful family that we're proud to have as part of our Catamount family.
Yeah. Well, let's check in one more time when we'll come back to Gary. Let's check in with our social media influencer, Clark Wilhoyd, who's checking in back in the back of the room.
Coach, we've got one question for you. How does the addition of assistant coach Ben Betts help the program and the direction and just the overall, per se, quality of life of this program that we hope to see make an NCAA tournament run this year?
Yeah, Coach Betts is the best. You talk about the day-to-day and just overly optimistic, just a wonderful person. But he helps us immensely because he has Division I head coaching experience. He has years of experience at a very, very high level, really at all levels of college basketball. He had a very successful, again, head coaching record as the head coach at South Carolina State. Spent time at VCU, spent time with Coach Cable at Oklahoma as well, and has been around the highest level of players, the Griffin brothers and things like that out there. So he's just a wonderful person first and foremost, a very good role model and mentor for our kids. And again, he brings positivity and energy to practice and to the office every day. And just a great person to be around. I think he's made a wonderful impression on the people here at Western in this short time here, and we're just really, really fortunate to have him.
So, yes. You mentioned Cameron Gibson earlier, Coach. Obviously, a player who started a lot of games here at Western Carolina University. Can you tell us a little bit how his rehab is coming, and will he be able to play for the Catamounts this year? Because he's really a solid guy.
Yeah, he's first and foremost, he's one of the nicest kids I've ever been around in all of my years playing or coaching. But you're right, I believe, and I might be wrong on this, Coach Grandy, you can help me if I'm wrong. I believe he started every game that he's been here for and been healthy for. He's a very talented kid. I think, it was a bit of an adjustment for Cameron last year because he spent so much of his freshman year playing that point guard spot before we had Mason in the fold. I think Cameron was, especially early, more naturally a shooting guard. But he and Matt Halverson both, as natural shooting guards, both slid over and played some point guard for us 2 years ago out of necessity, and both did it admirably and never made a peep about it. And I think it helped both of them in the long run as players to play the point guard spot a little bit. But, I think going through that process last year and getting comfortable playing with Mason and off the ball a little bit and playing with the ball in his hands as well, because we have, the way that we play, I think, a lot of guys have the opportunity to use ball screens and play out of them in the half court or in the full court. But really talented player, really glad that he's back in uniform and he's back in practice. It's a hard injury to come back from. Yeah. I mean, it takes time. It takes time to grow confidence, and I think he's confidence in your ability in getting back to 100%. And I think he's getting there. I think his strength is getting there. I think you'll see him sooner than later.
Good.
Would be remiss. We talked about the addition of Coach Betts, but the elevation of Brett Ferguson up to from Director of Basketball Operations, the addition of Mitchell Hill, who you're very familiar with from down at Winthrop. Talk about those young men. And also, it would not be a good coach's show without mentioning Tony Rack. We've got to make sure we mention.
It would be
Tony
a great
Rack.
coach's show for me not to mention Coach Rack.
And of course, Matt Earps completing out your staff there, and the hard work that those young men behind the scenes put in as well.
Yeah, they do. Like I said, they've managed to put together a really, really talented roster. It really is. It's a joy to come to work every day. They have a high energy level. They make me look really, really smart. I don't know what I'm doing half the time, but those guys do. So, you know, I get to sit back and watch them coach the team and do it in a really, really good way. And, you know, really at the end of the day, they're great people, and they're great people for us to surround our student athletes with. You know, when they come in, and it's funny, it's sort of sad when you become the head coach. As an assistant, when the players come in, your door's open, like guys will stop and talk. They go right by the head coach's door all the time. I don't know why that is. But in those moments when they go see the assistant coaches, it's just so comforting for all of us, and hopefully our kids' families, and as well as you know, as me, when those guys go in there, they're meeting with and spending time with unbelievable people that are going to help them as role models in the long run and give them good advice. And you know, it's a very good group. They're crazy as the day is long, but they're a lot of fun to be around.
Got time for one more question. We'll go to social media and we'll check in with Clark Wilhoit, who's got another question for us coming in on Facebook.
Coach, we just got one question for you coming from Joe Henry. What's the chance of Corey Hightower gaining immediate eligibility?
I don't know how much I can comment on that necessarily. I guess I could say that I hope it's high. Corey is a very good player, and he's going to be a very good player here. If it's this year, fantastic. If it's next year, that's okay too. I think it's somebody that Catamount Nation should be very excited about, that he'll be in the purple and gold. I will say that I hope that we have him, you know, in the near future, but you know, again, it's sort of something that's not necessarily in our hands. But he's a great kid. He's a good player. So to have another talented player of his caliber, who's been an all-league player at the Division I level, would help. But we're going to be really good if we have Corey. We're going to be really good if we don't have Corey.
Great question. They're coming in, and again, we hope for the best on that. But Coach, you're staring down the line here, and you've got, what, 2 weeks from Wednesday, you guys will be tipping it off over in Asheville against UNC Wilmington. Again, the full complete schedule will be released later on this week, middle of the week. We hope to have that completed out. And of course, like we said, it's always subject to change, of course, the way everything has been here since last March. But really looking forward to getting out on the floor and seeing these guys perform.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. We'll be exciting. We'll be hopefully a fun brand of basketball. And again, they're such an easy group to pull for, because it's just wonderful kids across the board, and they're gonna work very, very hard to make Catamount Nation very proud.
Looking forward to it. Stay with us when we get back with this installment of Catamount Conversations. Our 2020-2021 basketball preview continues. We thank Coach Prosser for stopping by. Kylie Hill has already made himself known in the back of the room. We'll have him front and center when we return. Again, Catamount Conversations presented by Stanberry Insurance. Don't forget to drop us a note on Facebook. Clark Wilhoit, social media influencer extraordinaire, is checking those out. Again, stay with us. We'll be right back with more of this Catamount Conversation.
Each year, we look forward to the beginning of the academic year. The anticipation grows as our student athletes return to competition.
A coach's voice speaks of inspiration to a new season of student athletes as the sound of our marching band echoes through our campus.
The locker rooms and hallways are filled with the energy that signals the students are back in Colowee. For many, it's just the beginning, and for some, it's the bittersweet final fall.
But for all, it's a unique experience that only comes around once in a lifetime.
COVID-19 has had a profound impact on all of our athletic teams. Catamount sports were canceled this past spring, and fall sports were postponed.
This has been devastating to me, my fellow student athletes, and our coaches. But like so many others, we have learned to cope, adjust, and look to the future with the hope we can soon play the sport that we love.
Your generosity from this past year helped ensure that we can continue to compete in the classroom and provides the foundation for what we need to get back to the competition.
I can't wait until the first match. The spirit of competition and the exhilarating moment of winning. It powers me in every other area of my life, from academics to my family. I can't describe the incredible feeling of running onto the field among the fall leaves of our mountains, the cheers of thousands around.
That moment of pure joy and pride as your teammates celebrate with you on the field, the sidelines, and the locker room. These memories last a lifetime. I know my experience here today will set a foundation for my success tomorrow.
It will take all of us coming together as one in order to get through what will be a challenging year.
All of us means staff, faculty, coaches, donors, student athlete alumni, friends, and current student athletes. It also means those who have traditionally supported athletics only from a distance.
We need you now. In order for us to get back into the competition in a responsible way, it will require an investment.
It will require patience.
Will require us to step up for our student athletes. You've done it time and time before, and we know Catamount Nation is again up to the challenge.
In response to the pandemic, we have created the We Are One Fund.
Facing $1 million revenue challenge, coupled with increased costs associated with COVID-19, we need your support in a unique way in order to keep our commitments to our deserving student athletes.
Our resolve has been tested in ways we never expected, and we need you.
We cannot compromise our commitment to our student athletes. We must continue to instill the spirit of perseverance and the strength of character that makes us Catamount strong. Join us in supporting our student athletes through the We Are One Fund.
We are one.
We are Catamounts.
Go Cats!
Go Cats!
Go Cats!
Welcome back into our Catamount Conversation presented by Stanberry Insurance. 3 locations to serve you across Western North Carolina. Regional independent insurance agency, Silva, Waynesville, and Highlands. Online at stanberryins.com. The best 3-point play around. 3 locations to serve you right there. Again, Stanberry Insurance, independent regional agency with more options to keep your bases covered for all of life's touchdowns, home runs, and appropriately tonight, slam dunks as we talk Catamount basketball. Joined now by Western Carolina second-year women's basketball head coach and Kylie Hill. And Coach, good to have you here.
Well, I appreciate it. And it's for the women's game, it's 2-footers.
Well, we'll take it.
2-footers and 3-ball, man. I don't know about the dunks.
Gotta ask you first of all, Coach. Obviously, we started out with Coach Prosser talking about how COVID-19 really changed everything. But you and I talked courtside in Asheville after the tournament game there, and you told me the preparation for 2020, 2021 starts right now.
Correct.
Then COVID hit and everything kind of got shuffled around a little bit. But how has it been for you and your staff in trying to get things going and turning the corner into this year?
Well, actually, I mean, we're no different than anybody else that was in the country with having to kind of wade through the dynamics of the waves coming back and forth with COVID. But I think for us, you know, as we talked after, and it even goes back further, because we were laying a foundation through the course of our season, and we hit January and February. There were things coming into play. We were able to also sign 5 kids early in that early signing in November. We signed 2 late in February in the March signing window, and so that was also a big positive for us. So I was actually on when COVID, when everything for the NCAA tournament and across the board, and say recruiting-wise, myself and 2 of our sisters, we were actually sitting in an in-home visit in Virginia, and got the news over our phone from a compliance office that get off the road now. It's been shut down, and so what ended up happening is that we went in transition this past year as a family. Me personally, you know, my wife, my smoking hot wife, is here tonight. So they were still in Hattiesburg. So we went down there, and I spent the majority of my time on the phone talking with our kids, talking with future recruits, and we actually had the opportunity as a staff to begin kind of molding our plan via Zoom, and where we would have more focus on the road, recruiting on the road, doing so many things, and been separated. We were able to really galvanize and focus in what were the main priorities with such a young team we were bringing together to bring back the group of those kids who were going to come from this year we were building with as a foundation to keep moving forward. So for us, it was actually a blessing in disguise. And that opportunity to take that group, kind of focus our vision on what we want to do and prioritize. And then we were able to really dig in with our current kids. When we got the window that we could begin zooming them as a whole, we began doing things that were non-basketball related, which is at this point in time for our culture and our program, I think for a lot of programs when you're building it, we were doing a lot of the intangible things that are not X's and O's. You know, we would have basically it was a learner's lunch. We would have it every week on a designated day. And we would take an hour to an hour and a half, and we would talk about different topics from what leadership looks like, feels like, tastes like, smells like. Bring in video, just show them short little clips, then pull stuff back and forth and have a Q&A, and then learn about each other. And those are things that sometimes get lost when you're having to do so many things throughout the summer. And so for us, it was actually a blessing. And so that's been really good once we arrived in July, because there was already a built-in connection with some of these kids. And another piece of so much of a, I give an example of a dog track or a horse trying to chase a carrot or whatever, that's where our kids came into play at this point. They were hungry they'd missed the game since March. They'd been away from it. They weren't bored with it. They were now be able to take some of the things we talked about and to make them into a physical nature. And it's been good. It's been really, really good. And our coaching staff, we have a new, which you'll talk about probably in a few minutes, but we were able to finally establish our coach staff as a whole. We were assistant down the entire last year, and that's also been another opportunity. They're really pouring into those kids now and throughout the summer, of course, but it's just been an exciting time.
And now you're all experts on Zoom. That's been the new thing to learn, right?
Let's just say, if anybody can screw up Zoom, I'm gifted at that. I'm gifted.
Coach, you keep saying this word over and over, and I saw it firsthand. Use the word kids. Well, I got a chance and the pleasure of meeting your team recently at practice, and that was a wonderful opportunity. But you really do have kids. You look at your roster of 13 players, 5 freshmen, and during the introduction, freshmen, 5 freshmen, 4 sophomores. Wow, that's got to be exciting and scary at the same time.
I was coming over here, Prosser. I probably shouldn't say this in the Facebook Live, but I'm getting a little missing pieces up top, and I'm watching Facebook Live, and I said, Prosser's starting to get like me. I told Molly on the way over here, and that is part of those freshmen and sophomores. Because I do this a lot in my hair, and I'm just like, stuff like will happen in practice. We were off today. We actually went last night in a practice setting, and stuff will happen, and I'll just say it out loud. I said, "Man, y'all are so young."
Yes.
But the flip side of that is that they don't know the difference between what it's supposed to look like and what it's not supposed to look like, and they got 2 feet in and they're going 90-0 with great enthusiasm. And
that's good.
Coach, I screwed up. I'm sorry. It's okay. We'll move on to the next piece. So it's been wonderful. It really, really has, and there's a night and day difference between this club and last year's club, and part of that was just such a change of different things. But the enthusiasm, I think that you had witnessed, you'd mentioned that.
Yes. Yes.
It's like a breath of fresh air. Last year's group, who I was so proud of, they came such a long way with so many adverse situations with them and circumstances. This year's group, every day I'm already tearing. See Zoom? I'm already tearing this up too. That they constantly are. Coach, what do I need to do better? What do I need to learn from? They're wanting to absorb film. There's always something else that they're wanting to absorb and learn. And it's just, as a teacher, and Molly will testify. It's just, sometimes I can be an optimistic pessimist, if that makes sense at all. And she's like, man, you're having fun, and that is massive when you start teaching the game. And I've asked coaches as friends and young coaches in the business who just getting their first head job or whatever, and people will say, well, how's your club going to be? And the first question I'll ask them is, do you like them? Because if you like them, then you are going to go out of your way to help them and do help with them for success. If there's a inkling that you don't really like them, and I'm not talking about so much a character, but they just don't quite want to do the next level of excellence.
Wow.
Then there's issues. And so this group, I could not be more happy with that strive to greatness. And it's so much easier probably to climb the mountain than to stay on the mountain, because I've been blessed to be on that side too. right now I want to enjoy the ride and put anybody who wants to hop on. We got extra seats.
Good deal.
One of the guys that's going to take up one of the extra seats is our social media influencer. He's our optimist who always has a good time. We'll check in with Clark Wilhoit, who's got to check on our social media. Clark, what you got coming in online?
So we've got a big shout out to our WCU's finest, Mike Taylor. He's the equipment manager here for the Western Carolina football team. Big shout out to Mike. Thank you for tuning in. And then, Coach, we've got a question from Shannon. And Shannon, I apologize, I'm not going to say your last name because I don't want to embarrass you or myself on air. But Shannon asks, do you think that these weekly meetings with your team help bring the team closer as a whole and an understanding on how each individual works?
Without question, Shannon. Without a doubt, it was able to, again, with being a young basketball team, it provided them some parameters of what we were searching for, some criteria, some intangible things that make up, that they knew they were there, but what you did was you paint a picture for them that's what they're looking for. I talk a lot of things about when we talk about our defensive side or we talk about our offensive side, we talk about certain things that you're screening, or you're looking for. And I use the analogy, if you go deer hunting, you're going hunting for deer. If you're going duck hunting and so on and so forth. Well, there's certain things that our kids as a basketball team know they should be hunting and looking for. And one of them is, high character influence, great leadership, being trustworthy, and I can go on, and those are things I think galvanize what a true team culture is about. And we have a leadership group that we've created that's been branched off of those talks from this summer. They were over at the house the other night and talking about, how do they define those certain things. So I think when anytime that you can put that into light and paint a canvas for your kids, I think it allows them to create more ownership and toward having success as the long haul, the journey.
Yeah, I appreciate the questioning, and you can drop us a note on the Facebook Live here tonight. Don't forget, coming up this weekend, we've got the Ingalls partnership with the WCU Center for Community Engagement and Service Learning. Again, the food drive coming up Friday, November 13th, noon to 6 at the location here in Silva, and of course on Saturday, November 14th, noon to 6 at the Russ Avenue location. Again, a food drive benefiting local nonprofit community organizations, a great partnership with our good friends from Ingalls. And of course, tonight's Facebook Live conversation, our Catamount conversation presented by Stanberry Insurance. 3 locations to serve you: Silva, Waynesville, and Highlands, and online, stanberry-ins.com. Again, the hyphen, the most important part of that. And Coach, you talked about, Gary mentioned the young. I'm going to talk about the old. And I don't think they'll like me saying that, but you've got 2 upperclassmen, 2 seniors that are coming back that have played a lot of basketball, that have grown a lot as young women in this program, and have had some pretty good success in terms of some of the records and accolades. Lauren LaPlante setting the 3-point record. Timber Moats has really made herself into a better basketball player. Talk about the leadership that your 2 seniors bring to the table.
Well, I'm going to add a third group, another third person, and she set out this past year for us as a redshirt. She was actually our first signee, is Kyla Allison. She was a transfer from Middle Tennessee State, and she's a redshirt junior. She'll have basically 2 more years of eligibility because of a medical redshirt opportunity. But first of all, we'll begin with Lauren LaPlante, who has been, she graduated last December. I typically call her Dr. LaPlante. She'd made a decision that she's going to end up going into dental school once she finishes her career, moving forward into her master's program, which she's in right now, and moving forward from that standpoint. She'll have a year delay before maybe a gap year. But her off the court dynamic of how you do things the right way has been incredible for our young kids to emulate. I could not be more proud of all 3 of those kids because they've been incredible mentors to our young ones. So many times, sometimes your older kids have been, when they get older, they think that everything's hunky-dory and they can just be the big woman on campus or whatever, and they've been far from that. They've been opening up their arms, they've been opening up their homes, taking kids to go eat lunch, have a dinner with them, wanting to create a relationship. Timber Moats is a second one with that. Timber has been absolutely, every program has somebody who is this is not a derogatory as a heavy, who can just lay down the line, can tell you what for, and you're like, yes ma'am, yes or whatever, and you don't feel bad about it because you know they're right. And Timber's that kid. She has that God-given gift to be able to relate to somebody and say, this is how it's going to be. You like it or you don't like it, but you're going to like it. And then you add Kyla Allison, who had last year to kind of go through without playing in a game scenario, and on the practice floor, got to know those kids there, and then was a major piece, her, Timber, Lauren, for these kids that we have recruited in here. I mean, every kid that we had on campus, and they were involved, some form or fashion, on visits. And so they became the core and were, again, great emulations of the things that we want for the future of this program. And that's been on the floor, off the floor, but on the floor as well. Their work ethic has been absolutely incredible when they walked in here. There's been a certain Catamount purple standard that has been every day, and they have demanded that. You have certain level of expectations and you have a certain level of demands, and they have met both of those worlds. And when somebody doesn't meet that, they're holding each other accountable. And one of the things that maybe there's a story behind this, but we gave each one of our kids a wristband, and one of the stories in there is a cod and catfish. And and the reason I even bring it because those 3 kids have been the catfish. And what I mean by that story, if we have enough time, is that for years, from Alaska fishermen would take the cod and they would ship them to China and take them across in the boat. And the cod would just sit on the tank for, the fish tank forever, the bottom of that. And then they'd get to China and they would just be simply just mush and just not very good quality meat. Well, they tried to figure things out and finally took catfish and put them in there with them. And that catfish would sink all the way to the bottom. That cod would have to come up, and every time the cod would want to get tired and go back down, that catfish would nip at them. And so that cod would swim around, and finally they would get from Alaska to China, and that cod they pulled out would be fresh, great meat. And so all of us have to have a catfish nipping at us. And that's what our 3 seniors, or 2 seniors, and that redshirt junior have been doing for the freshmen. They've been holding them accountable, nipping at them, making them swim when they didn't want to swim. And that for us has been part of what we're doing. They've been holding us accountable as a staff and so forth. So we have a daily reminder for that. But you can have these little bells and whistles and these things for pretty things, but you've got to show action. And these 3 kids have done that over and over and over again.
I think that's the old story that Gary Ayers tells everybody about the lion and the gazelle. Wake up, either one of them's got to wake up and be food, the other one's got to wake up or don't eat and get ready. No matter what, get up running is the moral of that story, right, Gary? I think that's
absolutely
wisdom that Gary Ayers imparts on us on the Catamount Sports Network on a daily basis. But I want to talk about 2 of your returning underclassmen that really made growth a year ago. We're named to the all-freshman team, talking about Alyssa Walker and Andrea Martin-Ruiz. Talk about their development, again, receiving some postseason accolades in the all-freshman team a year ago, and what do they mean now coming into this year?
Well, I think that just in terms of importance, they're very important. They're important because they've been here a year to understand the terminology, the language, and the language within our corporate language of the program. And they're able to communicate that, because I'm a firm believer in all the years that we've been blessed to have teams, is that to be able to climb the ladder of success, you've got to have, with the younger kids being taught by the older ones, it kind of filters down. And so our Timber, Lauren, Kai have helped that, and now you have, even they're young, they are ahead of the game. They had minutes played as in terms of they are now almost in their junior year. Because, most freshmen don't get the major minutes because of our lack of numbers. Andrea, Alyssa both had those opportunities to play, you're looking at 25, 26, 27 plus minutes. And that experience has been able to share with them, because that's put them ahead of the curve to help the other ones. And Andreas came back with from Spain. I mean, she was in like where a lot of our country during the March COVID piece, you know, we were shut down for a short period of time. They were still shut down even further in Spain. You know, they weren't even able to go outside, maybe where you could get some groceries, but there was no opportunity to go visit anybody else. If not, there were some serious issues. And so she came back with a renewed focus, a renewed energy. She doesn't have her sister sometimes right now, Judy, who is an awesome person, but Judy sometimes would protect the sister, you know. And so that communication-wise, that there was sometimes a barrier or sometimes a crutch. And Andrea doesn't have that crutch now, and she has grown by leaps and bounds over the last, you know, X number of months, because she was able to come and get back to the States in August. And Alyssa, you know, unbelievable high IQ, basketball IQ. You know, her demeanor sometimes you're thinking, okay, what's wrong now? What's happening now? But she's just processing things, and she's such a sharp thinker and can communicate it quickly, you know. And so you take both of those worlds, you know, and Andrea is still trying to figure out, you know, if most of the time you guys have to decipher my bad language anyway, you know, because I talk in circles half the time, and that's in English. Just imagine if poor Andrea is having to learn to say that in Spanish to me talking in circles. Now my slang and my catchphrases, and she's going, what? And so that has been another standpoint for her, where her growth, where she picks up on things quickly and can decipher it quicker than she was last year. So I think that's a byproduct of what you and I talked about from the very beginning when the first question you asked, is that this last year was building to this. And that growth is going to hopefully be exponential, as well as a compound effect as we move forward.
Yeah. Coach, one thing about it, we talked about the youth, and sometimes with youth, the enthusiasm is always great, and sometimes as well, the expectations are very good with young players. What are the expectations of this group you have coming?
Well, I think that it's very simple. Number one, I think that we're going to give maximum effort every single day. You know, there's going to be, our identity will be that there's going to be an effort play on every single possession. I think from a competition standpoint, we want to be in a position where we are competing and expecting to win every single opportunity. I think there were times last year within our culture that the expectation was just to show up, you know, and that's no longer a mentality for this young team. We purposely, when we were recruiting, went out and we tried to sign kids that came from winning programs. You know, you've got, of the 7 kids that we signed, one of them, a junior college, he won a national championship as a freshman. You know, 3 of the 5 or 4 of the 5, my memory fails me now, but I think it's 4 of the 5 either won a state championship or finished second during their high school career. And so those pieces add to those expectations, Gary, that elevate, because they don't know anything different. That's what they already know. Exactly. And if you go below that, that's not what it's about. Right. And so that's how they compete on a daily basis. That's what they provide that. I don't know, it's what's the song out there? Swag, 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 whatever that is. I hear it every day in practice when it starts, you know, but they bring an air of swagger to themselves. And there's some doubt at times, but you can just tell when we play some 5-on-5 and play some up and down game-like situations, there's a different lever, a knob that starts turning up with certain of those kids. They think it's on. And so that expectation is part of building, because we work hard not to talk about wins and losses, because you start talking, that's the outcome. Right. If you take care of the process the correct way and be systematic to a certain degree about it, then those wins and losses will take care of themselves. But if you never have the expectations to have success, and that's part of our beliefs principles that we've hopefully ingrained in a little bit to a certain belief, and that's part of, you take our acronym of the believe, and E, expect success. That's part of what they do, and I think they begin to visualize that too.
Time to check in one more time. Final question coming in from social media. Clark Wilhoit's got it for us.
Coach, as a former athlete myself, I know that sometimes the daily grind, it can be something that's just absolutely overwhelming sometimes. And we've got a question from Chadwick Sands, and he wants to know, what's the daily schedule like for our student athletes right now, or for your girls? And then how would you compare that to about a year ago, pre-COVID? I know that we've already kind of hit that, but how would you describe the daily schedule for last week for your girls? And then how would you compare that to a year ago, pre-COVID?
Well, first of all, I think, because you ran cross country, right, Clark?
I was actually the punter.
Oh.
He's the holder. I was the holder.
Going back to the question, though, itself, is that our daily routine has actually been very similar to what we've done even before COVID. I've tried to keep things as normal as possible. The only true difference between our daily practice situation is really in the academic side, where a lot of them are now have the online classes consistently. But from a basketball standpoint, we're still lifting. We're lifting 3 days a week. From once official practice began on October the 14th, because we get 42 days to practice 30 times before our first contest. And we basically we go Sunday, we come in, we lift, we do a film session for about 30 minutes, and kind of following back up to teach some things and show some things visually as a whole. Then we hit the floor for 2.5, maybe 2:45. Then Mondays are crazy days for our kids because of labs, because of the in-person labs here. So we take Mondays off. Then we come back in on a Tuesday, and we have to practice late because we don't get out of class and practice in terms of gym time between now with volleyball practicing and also the men's team. So we go late. We go at 5:30 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Wednesdays we go at 2:30, and then Friday we go at 1, and we take off on Saturdays. And we've been trying to manipulate not so much manipulate, but based on the protocol of testing, that if for tracing wise, you got to make sure from 48 hours out that they've not been hopefully around each other too much, because you can get your entire team wiped out. That's those two things of academics and how we try to manage the testing, so we're not getting our team traced out if one person has it. That's probably been the biggest difference, but that's kind of been our consistent theme. And I think that one of the biggest things we've tried to do is remain consistent, because one of the craziest things that has happened during COVID from March on is nothing's normal. And what we've tried to do is create constant normal for these kids, a constant routine for them, so their outside world it doesn't come constantly into basketball world. So it becomes, this is a comfort place for them. And that's what we've tried to do.
Yeah, great question. Again, we appreciate you dropping that in on our Facebook. Coach, really quickly here, want to wrap up. Would be remiss, you talked about having been on campus since July, and it's really put a lot on, your coaching staff. You mentioned a new member, Brooke Rhodes, going along with Shyla Coleman and Megan Brown and Amara Brandt, your staff. A lot has been put on them since July, but also talk about what it meant to have this campus embrace student athletes, football, men's basketball, women's basketball, from health services and Dr. Creel and his staff, Pam Buchanan across campus, all the nurses and everyone that helped administer these tests day in, day out. The partnership with Harris Regional, the partnership with residential living, and of course Catamount Dining, just everybody pitching in, not only from a basketball standpoint with basketball, men's, women, and of course football, but also to getting them back here to campus in July to kind of get that extra opportunities and going forward.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of piggyback off my answer for that, because we launched, I guess it's a week ago now, maybe 2 weeks ago, our Shoot for the Cure campaign. And the reason I bring that up is part of the theme for that is that every three-pointer that we will make this year, we're getting pledges, donations, and that's going to give back here to locally, to everybody here. And one of the things that tie into the Shoot for the Cure is neighbors helping neighbors. And that to me resonates when you ask that question, because from our health science, or from our health department to our Dr. Creel and everybody at Byrd, Mike Byer's staff, Dr. Brown, because there was also a big deal in Chad's office that, when we brought these kids back, there were no meal windows. Everything was shut down. And our administration, we had a brand new athletic director. You know, Alex came in and, you know, I don't know if Alex has any hair. I think he may be bald, like getting close like me. Definitely doesn't have any hair for COVID now, for sure, because it's been nonstop. But the thing about it is that everybody, Stacy Miller, all of our administration, Ryan Jones, who's our sports administrator, they completely worked around the clock to galvanize and make things happen for football, men's, women's basketball, to get us, again, getting our kids where they come in. Because one of the conversations, I think I had it with Chad at one point in time, and I know I had it with Stacy and Ryan, my big thing was that when bringing our kids back in July, I wanted that sense of normalcy. We had 7 new faces. I did not want their first experience at Western Carolina to be a negative one, any type of connotation. And they came in, and from housing, I mean, it was just like, hey, how can we help? What can we do? I mean, you're the only ones here, you know, but that's okay. You're going to be the best folks here ever. And so if there was a question, if there was a concern, or are you hungry? Can we help you? You know, do you need a pencil? Here you go. You know, we haven't taken classes, but you can take a pencil anyway. Go for it. And it's just been incredible. And it shows the Catamount way. It shows that regardless of the circumstances, people will always be there to help you when you need help. And you don't get that everywhere. You don't. I've been blessed, Molly and I have been blessed to be at 1, 2, 3, 4 different institutions, 5, I guess, 4, 5. Anyway, and each one has their own unique piece. This one has another feel to it. You know, being a small environment we are at a Division I scale, you don't get. It's, you know, I left another Division I school and I came here. And part of leaving there, and still great people, but it's almost a business side, which has a little bit of athletics as a whole. But you come here, it still has that family window. I'm still Kylie Hill. I'm not 4'3", 115, 9958. I don't know what that number is, but anyway. That in itself is what our kids are feeling too, and it's continued to happen. Again, in a non-normal world, you know, we have from day one we say FCU up, or FCU, basically face coverings up. That's our term, and so from day one they've heard that, and so those face coverings, when they walk in here, they see somebody. If they somehow have it, put it up, because we've got to protect our own. We got to protect our kids. We got to protect other people, and that's what's been moved forward with. They didn't know that coming in, but now that those kids, and they've seen that, okay, people are here to help me. Well, I got to make sure I help them too, and it's a wonderful embrace, you know, and you feel good inside when you know people are around you that you really care for you and care for them as well.
Well, Coach, we greatly appreciate your time here with us, and we're looking forward, again, a complete schedule coming up later this week. We'll have that out, and looking forward to getting some basketball being played. I know you guys got some big games, both here at home and on the road, that you're looking forward to, and conference coming up in January, but you got a couple months till you get to there.
Yeah, and Chad and I have talked about this, you know, where our schedule with, you know, with pushing the dates back to 25th, we lost 2 home games with the snap of fingers. And hopefully we're still trying to work through some of those pieces. I know his staff is going to release some stuff, your staff is going to release some stuff early next week, and it's a work in progress. But folks who are watching, listening, you know, we may not have you live in person in the stands, but catch us on every single outlet we have, because our kids know, and we need you, because that enthusiasm will come through that screen, I promise you.
Now, looking forward to that. And speaking of enthusiasm coming through, Gary Ayers, next time you and I are together will be this Saturday in Lynchburg, Virginia, as Catamount football gets their season underway against the nationally ranked Liberty Flames. A couple of years ago, they were still playing FCS football. Now look at them. They're undefeated on the year with one of the nation's longest winning streaks, both overall and at home. And we'll be talking live from Williams Stadium coming up 11 a.m. this Saturday.
Hey, I look forward to it. It's been too long since we've been on the air.
Did that kicker, did he hurt his ankle?
I'm not sure.
Man.
I don't think he did.
Man.
Coach Spear was hoping that he and maybe the transfer quarterback, maybe that transfer running back.
Yeah,
they got
that's where I was going to go next.
Really good football team, but a great opportunity for our Catamounts to hit the road this weekend. Of course, Catamount Sports Network coverage will begin at 11 a.m. ahead of the high noon kickoff. You can catch that online, catamountsports.com, and of course across all of our affiliates, 8 stations across Western North Carolina for that ball game coming up this weekend. Looking forward to sharing the airwaves once again with my CSN brothers, Gary Ayers, Jeff Bryson, and Greg McLand. We'll let him back down on the sidelines. Greg will have a good time down in the trenches for us as we get ready for Catamount football this weekend at Liberty, the following weekend at Eastern Kentucky, and then it's basketball season until December 11th. Then we'll play one more football game down the road in a little town called Chapel Hill, who has a pretty good football team in their own right. So again, a tough schedule here in the fall for Western Carolina. I'd like to thank all of our guests for tonight, Coach Prosser and of course Coach Hill joining us here. Our man in the back of the room, but front and fore in our hearts, talking about Clark Wilhoit. Clark, your final thoughts tonight.
I really appreciate everything, all the comments, everybody tuning in. It's been a great show, been a great night. Thank you to Coach Hill and to Coach Prosser, and especially the two main men up there, Gary Ayers and Daniel Hooker. Definitely appreciate you guys, and I definitely appreciate the opportunity to come and talk. And I hope that everybody tunes in on ESPN when we play Liberty this Saturday, and then especially when we have Coach Hill coaching the women's basketball team, and then with Coach Prosser with the men's team. So again, thank you all, and I wish all you a very good night.
Social media numbers through the roof because of one Clark Wilhoit. Special thanks again to Stanberry Insurance, presenters of our Catamount Conversations. For the coach, for Gary Ayers, and for our social media extraordinaire, talking about Clark Wilhoit. Also like to give a shout out to the Prod Squad, talking about the guys in the next room, as Noah Sauter and Corey Hoska both are able to help bring us with you tonight. Daniel Hooker saying so long from Cullowhee, USA. We'll catch you this Saturday, 11 a.m. on the Catamount Sports Network. Good night, everybody.